Okay, lovely ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Punching shear, punk shear, pronounced by me a lot of time is P-U-N-C, or sometimes all the way punching shear, triggering many people. All right, look at this punk shear right here, right there. Look, some of my cursing and things like that, you guys have to realize your data, where you get it from, your conclusive files. Where I grew up, cursing was common, especially in the household. The other one is, no, I had a professor once. He was an older guy, nice guy. He said, "You know what? You don't remember anything I'm teaching you to everybody." And he says, "But if I pick up this," and he picked up this damn sharp instrument. And he said, "If I tell you guys that, E equals MC square, and at the same time I start talking about poking you in your eye," I never forgot him. "You're never going to forget the formula I just gave you." Well, I never forgot that, what he said. He was saying that sometimes a dead person delivering doesn't work. And so his way of delivery works better if he throws in the mix. Sometimes he'll throw in, and I learned that from him, sometimes he'll throw in something to see if everybody's paying attention, like 2 + 2 is 5, and then see who catches on to what he just said. And if nobody catches on, he's like, they're all sleeping. So then he'll go into a rant, and that wakes them up, wakes everybody up. But that was something his psychology was solid. It does work. It does work. If I get on here and I just talk monotone and tell you about punk shear, it becomes a boring subject. All right, so look at this punk shear in this picture. And I'm going to try to reduce the cursing down to at least 50%. So for every 2 curses, I'll try to get that down to 1. All right, so now here we go. So incidentally, cursing is just a form of attacking back. I am not cursing most of the time to do the poke in the eye thing. I'll do something like, I'll do a comment that throws you out there. That's what I'm doing, like the BMA. Like, what is a BMA? What is a BMA? What the hell is that? I'll do that to try to get you engaged. I want you engaged. I have a couple of viewers here who have already told me that concrete is tested like the real world. They got triggered. Now obviously they're not real world contractors nor engineers. No engineer would want to take me up on this battle. I welcome them. That real testing, and even testing facilities, you can point to ACI all you want, but I'm saying let's talk about real world. Is the real world testing going to be indicative of what's going on in the real world? The real world testing is they take the samples back to labs. Now, it's very rare that some engineers on site, construction engineers on site, will say, keep that sample right there, exposed to the elements like the pad. That's very rare. Contractors would fight and bite back, on that. But it's very rare. But it has been done, where they demanded that the core samples stay out in the elements, and even the steel samples, samples, right? So anyway, look at this picture I have here. That is, you can look up, and I gave you guys some hints the other day in the comments. I said tributary. We'll talk about tributary. I think it's the one guy, I forget his name, and I keep wanting to call him character because he has, I think of his name as a character. He's on here frequently, so I apologize. You've sent me quite a few thumbnails and things like that, and you do a lot of comments. You know who you are. Tributary. Look at there. Look. This is the tributary area surrounding that punk shear failure. And do you see how clean it is? Do you see the rebar that's remaining? Look at the rebar that's remaining, guys. Zoom in on that, or look it up yourself, because I know you're on a cell phone, so we're 1-to-1 here. Look at the rebar that's at the bottom of that break. Look how clean it is, how clean that break happened around there. And then look at what's on the surface, on the ground there. Look how that rebar is also exposed. I'm driving as we're talking, and anybody triggered by that, quickly, turn off the content. So the tributary area, and then look at the one to the far right, and you see that it's only 3-sided pretty much. Well, that's because the forces weren't surrounding it. It didn't wrap it like the ones you see in the middle section there. It didn't wrap it. Now look at the debris field, and you see that it's the debris field includes that what looks like asphalt. And you can look to the right middle page, right about here, and you can observe the rip out similar. This is what it looks like with the puncture failure. Whoops. So here's the one leaning over on this corner. Now, the one leaning over the corner, the others have the puncture in them, but that one in the corner, why not? Well, because the deck already hit, it had no more momentum to continue the forces to rip it out, to strip it down. And it might have punched slightly underneath. That's very interesting. It might have punched slightly underneath. Punched, right? Which means you get some depression, and at the top you'll see some fracturing. But you can look for that fracturing, and that would be buck tiles on the surf side thing. You would see tiles that have popped up, roughly broken free, if you will, around each one of those areas if you're looking for indicators, early indicators. They did put a wear layer on it, including sand, as I understand it. A significant amount of sand. From one of the engineers from the site, hope he or she doesn't get upset with me. I'm not going to disclose you no matter what battles we get into, so rest easy. But that sand bed could also hide a punching shear, because the fracture, the sand would displace instead of being one-to-one to the deck top and displacing, and you would see cracked tiles and popping tiles. I can't find that at this time in the report. I have not hit every page in that report of the repairs. Someone did some heavy lifting for me. He wrote heavy lifting, thank you, that's awesome, and showed me where some of the column supports will be. He or she, their character person, character, because some people use characters as their face, and I guess I'm a character, right? So on YouTube, so we have the image. So the puncture looks like a spider web almost up top. Depending though, the other puncture to the one to the right in this image would look like a huge mapping further out. You know, it's further out in that zone. Can you guys tell me what that zone is? Big truck wants to get over. Let me slow down. I always let big trucks get over. He's jamming up. Come on, baby. If you're gonna make it move, make it move. All right, so there we go. All right, so Maine, just let him get over and get some cushion now. Yep, he wanted to get over twice. There we go. He's gone. All right, so puncture. Back to this. So there's what it looks like. The engineer for Surfside apparently can identify puncture and calls it, you know, just spider webs. Just did it, you know, spiders. You know when they do the spider webs, you know they create so much tensile force that they can pull down a structure, and they probably had a spider issue here inside the underside of the deck. And damn, those damn spider webs. You know they talk. You've heard how strong they are. And probably some spider did some stupid shit, you know, loading a few of the corners there and pulled it all down like that. You know, that's probably what really happened here. So, notice the columns that the puncturing, how they're all standing erect. And yes, you do have a couple leaning over. And that would indicate what? That they have a fracture at the bottom. Or in this case, as you see here, we have a different, it touched down before it could finish the forces. So we have two of these touchdowns, if you will, and that's by the parking garage. So two slanted members. So we try to look at the span between the next area, the pool deck. And if you look at that and see the difference in the column sizes changes right about thereabouts, that's where the column size change. You still get your touchdown, and then you perhaps get the secondary collapse of the deck. The touchdowns work in everyone's favor that wants me to say that something else. I look at the touchdowns, as you see here in this image, as okay, it stopped at that point, and then the wave, so it hit all the way at the bottom, and then the wave continued. The second load of the wave continued, and it punched down. And then we look to prove which direction. We look at the scratch marks on which numbers are removed. And now we can see, oh, now the wave, it was holding on that side. Then it did a reversal and started dropping down, rubbing against the numbers off. So we get it from the garage area first. We get some touchdowns. The deck is being left in place. And if you can imagine, like this deck here to your, in this image, is left. And all of a sudden it's waiting, and then it does its next collapse. Interesting, I'm going to show you at noon today. It's a live video going at noon. I won't be on, I don't think I'll be on the chat, guys. But please comment. Someone sent me a video yesterday early, and I just decided to push it off because of this other content. Push it off until noon today. You'll see a beautiful garage collapse live from a helicopter. Don't go looking for it. Just wait for it. Just wait for it. It'll be more surprising to you. You know, I don't know. Do what you want to. But you can see the touchdown there. You see it's shaped in the form of a triangle. So you see between the two columns which way it fractured. Between the column to the right in this image and the column to the left of it. I believe that would be a column there. And there's your fracture. Let me scoot over a little bit and scoot over again. And I'm not looking at the phone at this point as I'm doing this transfer lanes. Alright, so wait a second here, and there we go, stable. Alright, so so concrete is tested in the real world. Look up testing. They take it back to labs and they mature it in a humid environment, beautifully humid controlled environment. In the real world, that shit's hard as a rock, and the concrete contractors are what they call chasing it, meaning you're trying to get that cream and get a finish on there before all the hold on, my brain's focusing on the road now. That's interesting. You heard how my brain decided that this conversation got put secondary. So they're chasing the bleed water coming off. The bleed water evaporates, and right after the bleed water evaporates, pretty much right after it evaporates, not before, you get a nice finish. You get a stable finish. Bleed water is very interesting. I worked with a plumber, and he had me come out. He often has me come out and do some of his concrete work for him. And this one was some hand mixing. And I said, nope, dryer. And he was like, no, it was like pack. I mean, it looked like junk, right? It looked like a three slump. But I said, no, there's moisture in there. Trust me. There's enough water content in there. WC, water content. Not water closet, just so you guys know. WC in concrete stands for water content. I said, we reached it. It's there. No. Well, put down my dry mix. Anyway, mix it up. But the next load, his instinctive ability said I'm wrong, and he added more water. Next thing you know, he's giving me a big-ass tip saying, I'm leaving. You know, yeah, you're right. And I love this guy. And he said, I'm leaving. I know you're going to be here for a few hours while that water bleeds off because of the temperature. And I said, don't worry about it. I'll babysit it. It took me a long time for that water to evaporate. Now you can cheat if you guys are contractors. You can run a fan. In fact, they used squeegees back in the day. They would use a squeegee to pull the bleed water off because it's nothing. It's actually, you don't even need it there anymore. Once it's at the top of the surface, you don't need it if it's staying there, because that means so I don't want you to dry out your surface. Don't get me wrong. Just don't pull the bleed water off in 90-degree weather. No, we're talking about where you're waiting forever and you got a ton of bleed water up there. Look up YouTube videos. I'm sure you can find it. One of the highway departments show you how to remove bleed water. So I do not give you bad content. I do not. Sometimes I give you bad advice to see if you're awake to catch up. And then I'll give you, oh man, outstanding. I'll tell you that's exactly right, etc. And I'll say it instantly if I can see a comment. And there's no so you'll see there's no delay. That means you found my flaw that I left there, that it might have left there on purpose. No, I leave a lot of flaws on purpose just to see if you catch them. It's just like my ladder foundation joke I did, and I appreciate people appreciating that. There was no traps in this one, though. This is all real. There's no traps in this conversation that I'm stating about punching shear and how you can go to the images. You can look at these images, but look at new garages. Look at as usually garages and punk shear. You saw the people die. We did the the images of the guy. Well, that was formwork failure. so that doesn't count because concrete was still green, was still wet. So you can't find concrete that's wet. You need to find it that it's like this, where there's slabs and their columns, and look up tributary. So basically, a tributary needs to go from the tributary areas around this block, if you will, that you're looking at, and it has to make it from this section over to the next column. This tributary area, that tributary area, the area between them, have to lock in to the slab that you're looking at, the one that's hanging there. Now it has a dead load, a dead weight. That dead weight, if it flexes before the concrete's matured, you get pull out. Here we're back to that pull out again. You get the rebar is what's holding it from flexing. It's in there gripped. And when the dead load starts pulling on it, creeping, I call it an accelerated creep. No engineer I know calls it accelerated creep, but I'm saying that the failure is happening when I use this term, and you don't even know it. That it's not something instantaneous, it's happening. It's a progressive collapse in the micro format, micro format, such as the grip around the rebar. And the strength has not been developed. The concrete paste around it has not been hardened, frozen in time enough where it can stay engaged in those ribs in the rebar. It's really interesting. Someone said, "Don't try using ice." I did think of the ice thing, not stealing your thunder, before your comment, and I'm not sure if I can get it across. But what I was thinking was a length of ice, freezing it with some rebar around it. I need to secure it, and then I need to pull the rebar out so you can see how it pulls on the ice and fractures. But ice is very brittle, and that's part of my G-warming conversations about how the ice breaks off, it shears. Now, I'm not brilliant on this one, not on the ice I might be okay, but the snow one is not mine. The snow one I'm going to tell you about how it shears off, how avalanches are created, is that frost layers are created, snow lands, and then it builds up, and then another frost layer is created, and then it builds up. Ultimately, you get multiple shear planes of frozen ice layers, and then snow, and then it gets so overloaded that it slides off, and there's your avalanche. This is all we're talking about, an avalanche of the shear plane, one of those ice layers, but they happen to be round, cylindrical, and they're around the rebar. The bigger the rebar, the more you grip. It all matters, though. Testing. How you doing this morning? I'm at the job site. So, guy gave me a wave. All right, so that's just the way it is, guys. I'm going to end this video, and I think I'll show you some of this job site stuff. At this job site, I actually grabbed a sample to do, and I'll load that video up maybe later this afternoon and show you some beautiful terrazzo where the wire's at the very bottom over all these years, and the how I use my car tire to keep loading it, and I say, let's see it fail, and you'll see it fail, but you'll see how tough that terrazzo is with just that wire there. All right, I think I'll give up the thing about smooth rebar in this video partially. Look up 6x6 wire mesh, 6x6 wire mesh for all you people interested in me saying that there is a smooth rebar. Look up 6x6 wire mesh. Look at it. Can you tell me how it works? This ties into later the terrazzo video. Take care. Oh, I now have to figure out how to shut this down. So I pull that this way. Come over. There we go. And I'm going to load this one up for you guys. Take care. And I'll do a lot of, I know you're looking at a blank screen. I'll do a lot of, can I switch screens? Huh. I'll do a lot of DoorDash install videos on rebar and concrete, and we'll demystify this rebar and concrete, and we'll not get it confused with the testing of compression testing, telling you your PSI, and how it really interacts. We know how it really interacts if you look at the failure. If you think about the paste that helps, the paste is the Portland that helps cause the failure, in that it has effervescence. There's salts and things like that that will swell. They attack the rebar, so that's that marriage I told you about. The marriage, initially, is a good-looking marriage. They're great. They got a nice honeymoon. But the honeymoon can go south real quick if you don't let them first mature and get to learn each other, get to fall in love with each other. That means the concrete has to lock in place. And that's sometimes 28 days, depending on how fast you can get the concrete to high early, set up higher, and depends on the load you're going to apply to it. But pretty much after 28 days, all the concrete's matured at where any engineer would be speccing it at. And then you can pull your forms for sure. We did that in the other video, showing that some of the 14 days is what they allow. But on that type of decking, that was a steel reinforced decking. But 28 days is where you're going to get your maturity of the concrete. Pretty much that's where they're testing it out to. So the marriage is not complete until 28 days. So you pull that, you break the marriage too soon. If you stop the propping of the marriage before 28 days, literally the propping of the two together, you're going to get some shear plane issues. You're going to get some flexural breaking of the concrete bond. So you just reduced your load capability once you did that. Oh, got it. Simple last video content. Any tile layers? Any guys lay tile? When you lay tile, you lay it in the fresh mortar, right? And you lay it there. If you wait about, say, 10 minutes and you walk on that tile, you'll create a pop. You'll press down the tile, but the mortar below was not set. So you'll now press it down, displacing that tile's ability that it's set, the product that was still setting to maturing. You'll break the set. You may still get a bond, but you're actually got multiple layers of bonds now. You don't have a continuous set from your bottom surface to the underside of your tile. That's broken now. So you don't walk on the tiles until the mortar has matured, and they'll tell you 24 hours. They'll tell you 2 hours if you're using a fast set. Hopefully that helps you understand. But if you think of the rebar as a marriage, and a marriage takes 28 days to mature, and after that we need not to let other people interfere with the marriage, such as the effervescence, the salts, the water, the air. Those people, they're trying to break the marriage up, overloading the deck, trying to break the marriage up. And so we want to monitor this marriage. It needs therapy. All right. Oh, I think I really like the way I'm going down this line. So it needs therapy. You're going to hear a lot more about therapy in marriage and mortar. So any concrete experts out there that want to argue that, please, your amygdala is being attacked because you're so set in your way because I really need those guys to change. I know I'm talking to the general public, but I really need the concrete installers to understand that we have a marriage that we have to protect. And so let's protect this marriage and monitor the marriage. It needs therapy all its life. Now they tell you, you'll hear engineers say, it's not a matter when it's going to crack. If it's going to crack, it's when. Well, that's because the marriage, at the time it's cracking, you got some marriage issues. Somebody came in there and induced a stress that the marriage couldn't take. Or the stress was created in the marriage because of the materials. That's the effervescence. And we'll go down clinker and things like that to help the marriage be a stronger bond, a stronger relationship to begin with. That would be a white Portland's. But concrete is a big topic, huge topic, and it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And then don't forget, the sun helped drying out if the sun also participates in the marriage when it's first being made. The wedding's taking place at the altar when they're first placing it. Wind, humidity, a whole bunch of things. And sometimes I got to add, this is going to be beautiful. Sorry guys. And sometimes you get the guy jumping right in too soon, who's already interfering with the marriage. The groom stepping forward and saying, hey, interfering. And that was stepping forward to be, he's letting the bleed water get trapped by finishing the surface too quick. And then the bleed water gets trapped, and then it makes a multiple layer, that ice cap thing I was talking about, the avalanche. And then the bleed water comes up underneath that finish. The air dries that top surface. Bleed water still comes up, but by chance it doesn't make it through the top surface, or it penetrates through very slowly. It breaks that top layer, and now you have a delamination issue that will show up in short order. It could be a matter of days or 2 years, but when you see that layer popping off, It's not. Mostly it's not salts. You'll see that in pitting. But when you see layers just flaking off, that's because somebody got into the marriage too soon. All right, guys are showing up here and they're looking at me, waiting for me to stop talking on my phone. Take care.